being held here in the Victoria Hall at Reading. Website. The seating in the public gallery will not ordinarily be filmed, but in the event of a technical malfunction or other unforeseen As chair, I have the discretion to adjourn the meeting in the event that there is disorderly conduct from councillors or members of the public, in accordance with Standing Orders 34 and 35. I can also terminate or suspend the webcasting of the meeting in accordance with the webcasting protocol. Members of the committee and officers will notice that different microphones are being used today. Members and officers are reminded to use the microphones when speaking, so comments are audible to those watching the webcast or recording the meeting. For those who are sharing microphones, please ensure that the neck of the microphone is turned towards you when you are speaking, as illustrated by me not doing it at the beginning of the meeting. That's how not to do it. Okay, jolly good. So, I haven't received any apologies for this evening, so none to record. Minutes of the last meeting, is everybody happy they're a true record? Thank you. Any matters arising from those minutes? Okay, thank you. Which takes us to item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members have any declarations of interest for this meeting? No? Good. Which takes us to item 3, questions. And we do have a question this evening from Mr. Tony Page. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Page. Can you just hang on a second? You can stay there. What I wanted to do was to ask Mark to introduce the officers who are present this evening, so that we're all familiar with who is here. I do apologise.
Thank you, Chair. So from my left, we have Sarah Hanson, our Natural Environment Officer, Darren Cook, our Transport Development Control Manager, Matthew Burns, Principal Planning Officer, and we have Nikki Simpson and Andrew Wood, Committee Services, who will be taking the minutes. Dave Anthony is our planning solicitor and will be advising us on legal matters tonight. Richard Etoff, our major projects team leader, and Steve Vargar, applications team leader. I'm Mark Warringham, planning policy manager, and also acting development manager after Julie's retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so let's move to the question page. It's all yours.
Is this working? Yes, good. Nice to see so many friendly and familiar faces. Chair, I wish to ask the following question. Following the recent reply by Councillor Ennis to me at Policy Committee on the 13th of April, which is set out below, would the Chair of the Planning Applications Committee confirm that a full report will be brought to Planning Applications Committee in June to allow the Planning Committee, if it deems appropriate, to consider passing the necessary resolution to add the name Sir John Modeski Way to all or parts of the A33 Relief Road?
Thank you. Thank you for your question and for reminding us that the commitment made at full council in June 2025 to find an appropriate and lasting way to mark a very considerable contribution that John Modeski has made to this town, and the further commitment made at Policy Committee on the 13th of April 2026 to initiate a consultation on the renaming and as you pointed out, it isn't renaming, it is the naming of, because actually it doesn't currently have a name. So that should be naming of the A33 to John Medeski Way. I can confirm that a consultation with 90 plus businesses along the A33 will commence after the local elections. This will be followed by consultation with the ward councillors of Coley, Catesgrove and Whitley wards. However, the timetable will not allow for a thorough consultation to be completed and for any responses to be fully considered and a report prepared for the planning applications meeting on the 3rd of June, as you requested in your question. But I can assure you that it is our intention to bring a report to a planning committee in early autumn. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, Chair, you touched on it. I do think it's important that we do establish the fact that the A33 Relief Road does not have a name. Apparently there are some officers who contend that it is named, and that needs clearly to be put to bed one way or the other. If there is a consultation, as you've set out, I presume I'd be grateful if you could confirm that it will be on the basis of a positive proposal to add the name Sir John Medeski Way. Lastly, bearing in mind, Chair, that Sir John was 85 yesterday, it would be nice to get this done whilst he is still with us. Would you not agree?
Thank you, Mr. Page. I can confirm all of the points you have made and agree that we will try and do this in a speedier but thorough way as possible, so that we can get this sorted as soon as possible. So thank you for your question. Thank you for reminding us. Thank you. Okay, so we can now move to item 4, potential site visits. Are you taking that, Mark?
Thank you, Chair. So I direct you to the report on this item, which has only one potential site visit recommended in Appendix 1, which is Hamdean House School. And just to be clear, because the recommendation of the report may not be entirely clear, the recommendation is that that site visit be undertaken. However, what's not in the report, but we would wish to add that we've received the reserve matters application for plots A, B and D at Station Hill, which is referenced PL 260415 on the 27th of March. We would like to further suggest a site visit is undertaken prior to the next committee.
Thank you. And Councillor Davis.
There's an application PL 260277 for 8 Whitley Wood Road. I think there was some talk about having a site visit there. So I'd like to sort of propose that, really.
Okay, are we all happy to accept those additional site visits to the list? Excellent, good. And do any other councillors have any others they wish to put forward at this time? Nope. Okay. Right, let's move then to item 5, planning appeals. Is that you again?
Thank you. Appendix 1 of the report on appeals shows the appeals lodged, and there have been 4 in that report. Please note we've also received 2 additional appeals lodged today. and they'll be shown in the report for the next committee. Appendix 2 shows the appeals decided, and we've had 8 decided, of which 3 of them were allowed. There's a note in the appendix about each of those appeals. I don't wish to add anything to that point, but I would direct members to the update report on Trinity Hall decision. And there have also been 2 more appeal decisions since the report was published. And again, those will be summarised in the reports for the next meeting, but one of those was dismissed and 1 was allowed.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to comment? Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to note in reference to my own ward, that being Abbey Ward, 2 items. One that I'd just like to applaud in regards to the Pinnacle at 22 Road, where the decision was upheld, the council's reason for refusal relating to flood risk for future occupants in prior approval conversions. I think it is really commendable that we've stated the facts here, put our foot down, and even where we have prior approval conversions, that we are minded to look at that as serious as we can. And I think we all know the challenges, and certainly as a town center councillor, I hear it from time to time with the commercial to resi conversions, challenges buildings have, albeit not flooding. So I would like to applaud that one. Additionally, I'd also like to point out the appeal in regards to 3 West Street, wherein there were black metal security shutters that were put in initially at a new shop there, and that was put through immediately, and it was dismissed. Despite the fact that West Street is not in a conservation area, it is still in the town center, and the way that we all enjoy our town center, enjoy the shops in the town center and in conservation areas, I'm thinking also of around the town. This is really, really important. Shutters can destroy the visual amenity of sites, and with a vibrant nighttime economy in Reading too, we don't need a town with shutters down all over the place. And so I really do applaud that. I ask that other businesses throughout the town note that what this decision was, despite not being in a conservation area, and seek to look at ways that they can also reduce shutters on the front of their properties and bring them inside. So I'd like to applaud this. I'd like to really call that out because it's because of its location and because of the fact that the inspector said no, this was not appropriate and in the best meaning or the best amenity that we can have for our town. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment on any of these appeals? Okay, let's move on then to the next agenda item, which is the annual development management performance report.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, this is the annual report we bring to you at the end of the year to report on development management performance. In terms of the main headlines, in terms of speed, we have been hitting all of the relevant government targets. For miners, householders and others, our performance has been broadly in line with recent years. For majors, we are only slightly above the target set by government, but I would emphasise that numbers of major applications in the year are low, so only 4 decisions that weren't issued in the timescales. In terms of total applications received, that has increased this year by 11% from last year. Appeals, we've had 27% allowed in the year, which is higher than last year, but that was a particularly low year. and our performance this year is more in line with the years preceding that. We've also been doing very well on government targets for the percentage of decisions overturned at appeal, which is well below the 10% target that they set. And in line with our total applications, our fee income is also up by 12%. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to comment on Councillor Lang?
Thank you, Chair. Hope you hear me loud and clear in this beautiful old town hall. Yeah, I mean, it was today that it didn't read well. I think it reads very well. I think we hit all of our statutory targets. Which shines out for me is the minor applications, including household applications, within an 8-week period is 388 of 452. That said that our officers are well in getting decisions for the minor applications, and importantly, 300, including householder applications, very few probably end up coming to committee. But of course, it doesn't take away the right, our democratic right, to bring them to applications committee if we want to. So I think we need to bear that in mind for maybe a future report. Our incomes are up. I know they're caveated. We're in the playoffs for the upper end for appeals. We hold up very well in the playoffs, unlike our football club this year. I hope the Chair allows me some discretion when I say that. I do hope that we do adopt the Sir John Majeski way, and I think that nearly all of the Reading football fans and the overwhelming majority of businesses and residents in Reading, so I just thought I'd make that comment. Okay, so on the whole, well done, Mark. Welcome to your new job, by the way, as acting management. Thank you, Chair.
Any other agenda item you'd like to cover? Councillor Lang? Okay, anybody else wish to comment on the performance report? I think it's, if I can just say, I think it's gratifying, and we should note, with thanks to our planners, that the data on appeals, when you compare it with other Berkshire authorities, means that we get it right. Most of the time, we get it right, or rather, you guys get it right. So I think we should minute our thanks to the planning officers for maintaining that level of rightness in making those decisions. Okay, let's move on. Next agenda item is responses to the national planning consultations. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And I think it's fair to say that we've had a huge amount of consultations in recent years from government around various changes to the planning system. So this report deals with 4 of those consultations, which have closed and 2 of which are ongoing. The first is a new draft of the National Planning Policy Framework. That's a consultation that is closed. That had a huge number of questions. So the appendix to the main report sets out the response that we've already submitted, and officers in particular, Steve and Richard, worked through a huge number of questions to churn that one out. And it covers a huge range of matters. Another consultation that's recently closed is on reform of planning committees. A response has been drafted between the main report going out and this meeting, so the full response is in the update pack that has now been submitted to the government. And that does propose some quite significant changes to how planning committees would operate. And the consultations which are open are on consulting the Secretary of State and on planning fees, and they're both quite technical in nature. And the full proposed response, which we're asking for your agreement tonight on, is set out again in the update report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, James. And what I'm just, I'm sorry, Councillor Moore. I will come to you immediately, but I was just going to suggest that we take these reports one at a time and see if there are any comments on each of those, because if we don't, we're going to be jumping around and it may get confusing. So if I take the first two reports, or take the first report on our response to the changes in the National Planning Policy Framework consultation, is anybody who wishes to say anything on that? Councillor Lovelock.
Thank you, Chair. But we don't do that. You can count on we only do it when we really feel there's a level of very concerned public interest in it. And I think it's really important that we do that, because then we have openness and transparency, and people can hear what's said, whereas if it's all done behind closed doors when it's controversial, people get suspicious. So I think it's important for the democratic process that we ask the government to think again about that, and I'm very pleased to see that we are doing that. So I think, from my point of view, fingers crossed that they listen to that and understand that they're, well, they're using a very big hammer. Then they need to think about other ways of dealing with that rather than punishing us all. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor.
The national Okay. I thought we were discussing the National Planning Policy Framework report first, not the Planning Committee reform. So I'm a bit confused.
We were, but we seem to have skipped. Two was the response, which you have the update on the changes to planning committee reform. That's the one that Councillor Lovelock has already commented on. And now Councillor Moore would like to.
Thank you, Chair. I fully agree with both councillors. And I know many MPs from other parties have pointed that out when these are presented. It's a shame the Minister in charge accused them of scaremongering about removing the ability of call-in. I think it does, as it says in the report, it does potentially reduce democratic oversight and erodes trust in decision-making. I think is a very, very bad idea, and I would not support.
I'm slightly confused to which one we're talking about now. We're actually talking about both at the same time, aren't we? development and unstick many committees across the country where, you know, there's lots of calling and they're used for political, personal opinion used for political gain and political point scoring. This local planning authority has a very good record, as I highlighted, with 388 minor applications and very few ending up coming to planning committee, because on the whole, our officers are very competent, and so are all of our councillors, and the committee works well together, I think. On the actual cautiously supportive of the response that we've given to the consultation on the DEPZ, Detailed Emergency Planning Zone. I would have liked it to be slightly stronger. I think this will impact on particularly house building in I'm sorry, Officer Warren.
That's number 3.
Yeah, right.
We're talking about number 1 and number 2.
Well, we keep flipping about, don't we?
Do you know, I thought it was simplify things. Why don't we just all talk about whatever we want to talk about?
Which
on
one?
these
Okay. Apologies, Chair. I will.
It's fine.
Okay.
Carry on.
I do agree with that, and I feel very strongly about it being a South Reading councillor, and I do think it will impact on housing development. So, thank you, Chair. I'll duck out and then come back in on the.
Anything else on number 1 and 2? No. So number 3 and number 4, we are actually to vote on, because they are to agree. So we are being asked to agree the responses. The first one is based on the points in paragraph 5.5. So if we go back to 5.5, you can see what those are. It's about the size of the threshold for commercial development. And the second one is about fees, planning fees. So, is there anybody who wishes to make a comment on either of those? No. Okay. So can I see all those in favour of agreeing point 3, to agree the response submitted to consultation on consulting the Secretary of State based on the points in paragraph 5.5. Can I see all those in favour, please?
Chair, it's actually the response that's in the appendix in the update report.
That's not what it says here.
It is on the update report.
Oh, sorry, beg pardon. Beg pardon. Okay, so recommendations: to note the response that has been submitted to the Planning Committee Reform Consultation set out in this report, so they're amplified, the full responses in. Thank you. And lastly, to agree the response on fees for planning as set out in the update report. Can I see all those in favour? Thank you. I've lost my agenda again. Okay, that takes us to item 8, which is the proposed pollarding of 4 willow trees at Rosekill Lane. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. As you said, it's a proposal to pollard 4 council willow trees at Rosekill Lane. It's been brought to committee in line with due procedure. The works are considered to be appropriate management to prevent the trees from failing into the adjacent Holybrook, and are in line with that approved to the rest of the line of trees to the east within private management. No comments or objections have been received, so the recommendation is to approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to... Councillor Lang.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's been raised by Coley councillors and some residents that obviously it's quite an overgrown area and with some willow trees and all that, quite a lot of wildlife, but also quite vermin. And obviously when these works happen, it may disturb the area, and well, it will disturb the area. And so we were asking whether it's possible to have an informative that pest control, council's pest control are involved to keep an eye on things to make sure the rats don't get into the residential areas and stuff like that. Thank you, Chair.
Can you comment on that, Sarah?
I'm quite happy to liaise with Environmental Protection to discuss how we could achieve that. Yep. No problem.
Excellent. Anybody else? Okay, can I see all in this report? One. So it takes us to the planning applications we have to consider this evening, and there is only one, and that is Napier Road, and I think I'm going to ask Matt to introduce that. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Chair. This is item 9 on page 65 of the main agenda report pack. The report considers a full planning application for the of 3 existing office buildings and construction of 570 build-to-rent apartments across 4 linked 11-storey blocks with associated amenity spaces, landscaping and parking. The application site is allocated for residential development under policy CR11I of the Reading Borough Local Plan, and it sits within the wider Station River Major Opportunity Area. The principle of a high-density residential development in this sustainable town centre edge location is supported and would provide much-needed housing for the borough. However, the proposals fail to meet several critical strategic and policy requirements. In particular, the development fails to demonstrate that it would safeguard land required for a future mass rapid transit route, or that it would provide an acceptable pedestrian cycle route to Napier Road. These shortfalls of the proposals conflict with strategic transport policies and undermine the vision for the wider Station River Major Opportunity Area. Furthermore, the application also fails to adequately meet the critical housing needs of the borough by way of failing to provide any affordable housing, including failure to secure an affordable housing deferred payment mechanism. The proposals also fail to demonstrate that they would not result in harm or future pressure to prune 5 protected TPO maple trees of high amenity value located at the western end of the site. While the scheme does deliver other notable benefits such as good architecture, sustainable construction, on-site biodiversity net gain and on-site tree planting, these benefits are not considered to outweigh the identified harms, and it is recommended that Planning Permission should be refused. As outlined within the update report, the applicant submitted revised plans and documents yesterday. Changes to the proposed plans identified by officers are minor and include removal of the servicing bay to Napier Road, removal of tree planters to the MRT strip of land, of hours. Advice is that the information submitted does not adequately address which relates to cycle parking, with the revised information now demonstrating that adequate cycle parking can be accommodated within the development. Therefore, officers recommend that reason for refusal 5 is removed. As noted in the update report, the applicant has advised of their agreement to provide some of the infrastructure contributions and works considered necessary to mitigate for the impact of the development, but in the absence of a completed Section 106 agreement to secure these works and contributions, officers continue to recommend those reasons for refusal. As such, the officer recommendation remains as per the agenda report and to refuse planning permission for all the reasons as outlined in the recommendation box, except for reason 5. Officers do request that should the committee determine that planning permission should be refused, then the committee delegate officers to be able to amend, remove or add to the reasons for refusal, should any changes be identified further review.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Davis, then Councillor Innes, then Councillor Williams, and then Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Matt, for that introduction and for all the hard work that's gone into this. It's a very thorough and comprehensive for the update, because I know that it's not been that easy and you've received information very, very late and had an awful lot of hard work to do to try and make sure that the report still substantially stands as despite that extra changes at the last minute. This brownfield site offers so much promise, really, and this proposal offers promise as well, in that it is it's brownfield, it's got excellent transport links, probably some of the best in the region, and it's right next to a major amenity in Kings Meadow. It's obviously a very important site and offers potential to make a big contribution to housing needs in Reading. So it's really important to get this right. There's a lot to commend it in the, and you've noted that in the report. The number of units delivered is really good. You get 570 dwellings in a really sustainable location. It would be a really good contribution to Reading's housing needs. The mix is good, and as mentioned, the biodiversity net gain is good. I think the design is pretty good. The mansion style, it puts me in mind of when I was in Central Park, or perhaps looking over a sort of mini version of the, if you like. But I do think that it's actually what is the sort of uniform blocks at the edge of the park kind of is what would work well here. So I'm liking all that. However, there's very obvious problems with development, and that report that makes this very clear, and there's many of our policies that this does not, that contravenes, in fact, and I don't feel that those good parts of it really outweigh the weight of the problems with it, and particularly lack of affordable housing. So it's, 570 build-to-rent dwellings, great, in a sustainable location, great, but we need them to be affordable. We need them to meet Reading's housing needs. We need to have some on site to be affordable, and we have none, and that's not acceptable. Breach of our policies, and that's the main reason for me. And because of the orientation of the development from west to east, it sort of as a kind of narrowing point, sort of at the east end, which means that our ambition for this MRT, which is it's an important policy of the council for sustainable travel along that route, is very much affected. It's not an active project we're doing at the moment, but it's very much a priority of this council and a policy of this council to keep that land available to do that. like from the updates that we've had, that changes those to some extent, as long as they're within that spirit of those reasons. And I trust officers to stick to that. Understanding that you've told us that reason 5 does not apply anymore, but the others, you know, I'm completely comfortable with those. And if you want to update those accordingly, I'm happy with that. So I'll be voting against this, and I'll be voting for the delegation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I've got Councillor Ennis next.
Yeah,
John, you have to bring the microphone right
closer.
near to you.
How's that?
No, you need to near you.
Right in. There.
Okay.
I'm going to swallow it in a minute. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And following on from Councillor Davis, I too recommendation delegated. I think I wouldn't want to say it's a very comprehensive report, and it's a real breath of fresh air to see, you know, the points. I mean, yeah, it's whether we like it or not, it's a grey-free, it's a brownfield site. It's a site that's designated for housing. So therefore, we can't knock that back. What we can knock back is, I totally agree, whilst not my detail, is about the affordable housing. I think we cannot accept that. We've done good negotiations to achieve affordable housing, but not something like this. We're not prepared to accept it. But my main one is the 2 and 3, the proposed development failed to demonstrate adequate safeguarding for mass rapid transport, transit, bus transport, transit, and also adequate active travel. I really want to thank the officers for this and the transport officers for producing, I think, a really detailed approach that will, I believe, as far as transport's concerned, page 78, 1.3, I think really settles that, about that. And then on 98, the, was it the 740, if you read there, the policy breaches or the policy that doesn't meet, you know, in contrary of. And we've got to remember that the mass rapid transport links was agreed at planning some time ago, and it's probably run out, but it was agreed. And it is something that's quite important in the transport plan for a future situation. And I don't think it's correct and right to be closed off by a planning application like this. I think it's important to keep in mind, given the issues of transport issues and congestion in the East Reading area, that we still believe that mass rapid transport could be the answer to that situation with buses and cycling, active travel. So not wanting it to close off, I think is important, but also the explanation given on 7.169 and all that page 139 about the mass rapid transit close off, but also the cycleway as well, and the footway and the cycle, because we want developments like this. It's going to happen, and done properly with affordable, with what people in Reading want, is more active travel. We've just opened up a cycleway along that route by taking actually a barrier out. We took a barrier out. We got the landlord to take a barrier out at Abbey Gardens, and that has opened from the town centre all the way through to Napier Road, to East Reading. So there will be opportunities all the way along East Reading, which we already have along the Thames, for cyclists to get in. And we want to encourage cycling and active travel. And I think this doesn't meet it, and it's got the criteria in the policy there. It doesn't meet it, therefore I'm opposing it. I'm recommending the officer's recommendation to refuse. There are some good elements in it, and I think, you know, if they're watching on record, some of the emissions and the electrification elements of it are positive. It's a massive, you know, proposal, planning proposal, which we must take seriously, but we must be saying that I totally agree with the transport officers that we need to be taking transport seriously with a development like this, and at least a decent offer on footway, cycleway has to be the way forward, and also not to close off the potential future MRT route. So that's the reasons why I agree with the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Innes. I've got Councillor Williams next.
Thank you, Chair. I hope this is near enough. This is an unusual one for me because I think I pretty much agree with everything that Councillor Davis said, and that doesn't often happen at planning. I think it's also unusual in that I don't mind the visuals at all. I think this is an attractively designed suite of blocks put together. I also think the dwelling mix is good. Quite unusual. We often get things which are massively dominated by one-bedroom flats, but that's not the case here. So it boils down to the reasons we've got in front of us, and the affordable housing, as I think both councillors have said, is unacceptable at 0. So I'm really happy to support officers' recommendations, support their ability to vary those if needed as the process moves forwards, and yeah, happy to vote for the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I have Councillor Moore next.
Thank you, Chair. So, I mean, this is disappointing for many reasons. No affordable housing contribution, no transit or active travel vision contribution, and until very recently, no open space, landscaping, carbon offsetting, employment and skills plan contributions. Given this application was first submitted over 2 years ago, and they got so much right on this application, as others have said, it's just so disappointing they got so much wrong after taking 2 years to get to this point. And I don't really feel there's any excuse for why they couldn't have got this bit right as well. The officer recommendation is comprehensive and robust, and I fully support it. I just hope that we get something that comes back that's better for this brownfield site, because it's sitting empty, doesn't really help anyone. And I think, yeah, it's just such a shame because, as Councillor Williams said, there's actually a lot to like, but there's so much that they just got wrong in the 2 years. So I fully support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I've got Councillor Hornsby-Smith next.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think a lot of people have made the points that I wish to make. I think it's, first of all, I'd like to say it's a really comprehensive report, and I'm very grateful to all the hard work that's gone into it, especially as these things have just suddenly materialised. First of all, 8 or 10 days ago, when the offer of the affordable housing was withdrawn, and then these new documents coming in bulk yesterday. It's not the way that we need to be planning our future in Reading. So I'm very grateful for all the hard work that's been put in to this. I think, you know, other people have said some of the things that are good about this application. It meets the spatial requirements. It would benefit from the housing, and the housing mix, as others have said, is also very good. I particularly like the fact that there are EV charging points for, as you'd expect. Yeah, I know, it's completely unlike me. But you'd expect me to say that it's good that they've done that, and it's exceptional that they've done that. I noticed that there are also 3 disabled parking bays. However, I would say, although that's policy compliant, if you've got 29 accessible flats, but only 3 parking bays, I would say, although it's policy compliant, the needs of people with disabilities are often greater. So I would, you know, question whether that's such a benefit. The one sort of distinctive concern that I would wish to make, I think, is about the windows in Block C, facing out on the ground floor, right abutting the footpath, as has been mentioned in the report. Officers have cited privacy, but I also think this is a security issue as well. If you're on a ground floor and you're opening up and there's somebody doing a drugs deal on a scooter on a footpath outside your house, that is not a good place to be. And I think you know that we need to be sort of aware of those. I think others will talk. Others have talked about the affordable homes, But I also would like to back up what Councillor Ennis was saying about the importance of the MRT and why we have to safeguard that. Because we have an 8% increase in the ownership of cars in the last 10 years. And that is not sustainable. We need to be able to supply good active travel alternatives. And in that, the shaping of this planning application compromises that, especially around blocks C and D, then that is not something that we can support. So I very much think that this is an application of two parts, which I think is alluded to in the report. Blocks A and B seem to be fine, but C and D are not fine, and also the other reasons about affordability and lack of contributions and this, that and the other. So I congratulate officers on the recommendations. I fully endorse them and also the discretion that we're allowing. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I have Councillor Leng next.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to repeat everything that everybody else has said, but I probably will. Councillor Moore said about a long drawn-out process, and this is where it comes back to relationships between developers and our officers. You know, and on the whole, I think that we work very constructively with developers and in good faith. And I hope that continues. And part of me hopes, I back the officer recommendation to refuse, by the way, so I'll make that a bit clear. I hope that something can carry on and they do come back. I actually quite like it. I like the way it looks. I always say that, but I do. You know, it's in the local plan. Great place to live, right by the river, prime location. Then there's the body language of the developer and the site itself. On the site visit, it was unkempt. It had been broken into. There was still the old bins there. There was litter. There was graffiti. There wasn't any boarding up. It doesn't show a commitment to the town. The government talk about we will prioritise brownfield around railways and such like, which we do, but they also prioritise affordable housing. And then the developer will mostly come back with viability, and an independent person will look at that and they'll come back with viability. So if it is viability, you accept viability, but then when they refuse a deferred payment, it makes me think whether the viability is there, you know, because if you're sure it's going to lose, why wouldn't you agree to a deferred payment mechanism? Somebody at the end, and probably not this committee, will have to decide, do they want housing numbers or do they want affordable housing? That's what it's come down to. And I think we should back our officers and no affordable, no development. Thank you, Chair. Oh, sorry. The MRT. It's not just some pie in the sky, you know, with devolution happening and mayoral strategic authorities and strategic authorities and enabling councils to work together and produce and finally enable these major infrastructure projects, yeah? So we're sitting here at a committee, we're probably making a decision that could, in 10, 15 years' time, they look back and go, oh, why did they surrender that strip of land? I don't want to be on a committee that does that and puts at risk the residents' future to improving traffic from east to west, whether that be in cars or whether that be on active travel in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Leng. Anybody else? Okay, so can I propose that we put this to the vote? We are looking at removing number 5 on the list of reasons to refuse, and we are awarding officers delegation to refine, amend, add to, if necessary, the reasons for refusal when they've had time to thoroughly study this huge amount of material that came in only yesterday. All those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. So there are just a couple of pieces of business to deal with. It's the end of the municipal year, so I'd like to thank you all for your cooperation and engagement in planning committee in the last year. I think we've worked well together. I think we've made some sound decisions, and we've behaved respectfully to each other. So I think we've had a good year on this planning committee. So thank you. And the second piece of business is that our former chair, Councillor Lovelock, is retiring from the council this year. And I don't know, Councillor Lovelock, how many years you've served on planning one way or another, but I think it's many, many, many years. And I think it's always gratifying when you walk around the town or you see things around the town that you were part of that decision making. And I think that's one of the reasons I love planning, is that you really feel you're making a difference to what's happening in the town. And you have certainly made a huge difference, Joe, to the way that this town has been shaped, as a former leader of the council, but also on planning committee, where you always were on top of your brief and you always knew what was what. So we would like to thank you for your contribution. We will miss you, but we wish you the happiest of retirements. I lost my bubble.
Can I just say a few words? Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Chair. And it's been very mixed feelings that I'm at my last ever meeting of the Planning Committee. I was on it when I was first elected in 1986 for a few years. And then, because I was a lead councillor and then deputy leader and then leader, I wasn't on it for quite a lot of years. But being back on this time, I think for 6 or 7 years, something like that. And it's you're right, it's the committee where you really see how we can help shape the future of Reading, and that's been hugely satisfying. So thank you all very much, and wish you all well with the new planning guidance.
Thank you, and some of us you will see next year, and some of us you won't, because that's the democratic process. Thank you.